Okay, and welcome back to the 17th day, where today I'm going to show you how we're making our tunic for the costumes that we're going to be using in our musical. Trash. So what you're going to first want to buy is a flat sheet. This is for a twin size bed, a flat sheet at Walmart. These are about $5 and it's a 200 thread count. Just the lowest quality flat sheet you can buy. You're going to need a pair of scissors. You're going to need a sewing machine. I have one here. And you can do it without a sewing machine, and I'll show you how in a little bit. And you're going to need some pins, which have a little bit of a head on them. You're going to use these to, you're going to use the pins to keep everything in place while before you get to sewing. Okay? And let me show you what we're going to do, make it simple. I'll show you what we're going to do, then I'm going to show you how we're going to do it. I'm taking a piece of paper, and this paper represents the twin flat sheet. You do not want to get the fitted sheets, okay? You don't want to get a fitted sheet. You want to make sure it's flat. You don't want the elastic on the edge. What we're going to do is we're going to take the fitted sheet for a twin size bed, and that's a small bed, maybe for a child. You're going to fold the fitted sheet in half, like that, and you're going to cut straight across. Okay? You're just going to cut that sheet straight across. You're going to have two pieces just like that. Okay? On the first piece, you want to find the center. And if you want to put a little indication that that's the front, maybe you can take a pencil or pen and you can put on the bottom, on the back side, let's say, F for front. This will be B for back. Okay? F and B, front and back. Okay? Now you find yourself the center, and what you're going to do is you're going to cut down 5 inches from the top. 5 inches. Now you may wonder what's 5 inches. If you don't have a ruler, 5 inches is about the width of your hand. If you got a big hand like mine, a finger is about 1 inch. Okay, so that's about 4 inches. In fact, when they measure horses, by the way, they use hands, and a hand is 4 inches. Who knows why they do that? So you're gonna cut down about 5 inches from the top of the sheet. Okay, let's assume that's 5 inches. Okay, and what you're going to first do, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to want to sew, or you're going to follow the leading edge of this cut. You're just going to put a stitch. I don't know if you can see that. Let me get a little closer. So you're going to want to, okay, so you can see the cut. Okay, so imagine that's 5 inches down. Okay, and you want to sew following this edge, and what that does is it actually will keep the thread from unraveling, keep the fabric from unraveling. You want to do it on both sides. Just follow the edge on both sides. So you're going to follow down about 5 inches. Okay, and that'll just keep the piece from unraveling. And then you want to cut it across, or sew it across a couple times, and that'll keep that from ripping like that. That'll keep it from ripping. Okay, if you cut the bottom edge, sorry, if you sew the bottom edge. And then what you want to do is you want to do the same up here. You want to sew it across about 5 inches. You're just sewing the fabric. And what that does is it's going to keep the fabric from unraveling, as I said. So about 5 inches here, 5 inches here, and 5 inches down. Now let me go get the other piece. And remember, that's the front. You want to do 5 inches down, 5 inches across, from left to right, so basically it would be 10 inches. It'll basically be 10 inches from here to here, 10 inches, okay? On the back side, you're going to do something a little different. You're going to find the center, okay, and you're going to cut down 2 inches, not 5. You're going to do 2 inches this way, okay? It's about 2 inches, okay? You're going to do the same thing on the back that you did on the front, but you're not going to sew down 5 inches. You're going to sew down 2 inches, sew across, sew up 2 inches, and on here you're going to sew across 5 inches. You're just going to sew this 5 inches. You're not sewing anything together. You're just sewing one piece. You're putting thread right here, down, across, up, and over here. You're just sewing one thing. You're not sewing two things together, so remember that. Keep that in mind. Now, once you have those edges sewed, what you're going to do now is you're going to sew the top piece to the bottom piece. And it will look, once it's sewn together, it's going to look like this. And the way you do that is you make sure that you know which side is out and which side is in. Now here's a piece that I'm working on right now. As you can see, this is the side, this is the side that was folded in. This was the side that was stitched in by the company that manufactured this fitted sheet. So what you want to do is you want to have the crease and the seam, you want all that on the inside, and the outside is going to look just like this. You're not going to see the crease. You're not going to see where they stitched it all together. You're going to see the thread, of course, but you're not going to see this piece here, okay? So that way you know which is the inside and which is the outside. Now you've got the top and the bottom, and you're going to put them together like this, and you're going to take your safety pins, you're going to take your pins like this, these are your little pins, and you're going to pin the fabric together like this, and this will hold the fabric in place for when you want to sew the edge. And you want to sew the edge from the bottom all the way up until you get to the point right here. You want to stop right there. You don't want to go any further. You want to stop right there. You want to start from here, and you want to work your way all the way up here, and you want to stop right there. And you do the same here. You want to stop right here, or start right here, and work your way all the way up. Okay? Alright. Once you've sewn these edges from here to here, and here to here, you're going to do the next step. Now I've put these pins here just to keep the paper together at this point. Now you can see, imagine this is a person who's going to be putting this costume on like this. Okay? So the next thing you want to do you're going to measure from the top down 15 inches, and you're going to cut straight across. Let me draw a little picture. So this will be 15 inches, and you're going to cut straight across. So as I was saying, from the top to the bottom is 15 inches. Then you're going to cut across here. Before you cut across, before you know where to stop, this has to be 20 inches here. 20 inches, and this is 20 inches. Okay? Okay. So measure this, measure from the center, 20 inches, 20 inches, and then you're going to cut straight down. So what we're doing now, you can fold this in half and do it that way as well, but you want 20 inches here, you want 15 inches here, you're going to cut across here, you're going to cut across here. Let me do that for you. And you can cut it in half, you can cut it while it's in half, and then that way you can cut it in half. Let me go across. As I said, this is 15 inches. And that's what it's going to look like after you cut that. And then when you open it up, you're going to start to see a t-shirt shape. It looks like a t-shirt. And that's what it'll look like. It'll look just like that. It'll look like that. Then what you want to do, the rest is simple. You're going to follow these lines. You're going to stitch here, down to here. You're going to stitch these two together. Go down to here, stitch these two together. You're going to stitch these two together. And you're going to stitch these two together. Okay, so I'm using pins to demonstrate where the sewing would be. Along this edge, along this edge, again along this edge, and along this edge. And let me show you what the finished product will look like. I have a little soda bottle here. Pretend that's a human being. And that's basically what it will look like when it's finished. Okay? If you had a glass head. I just wanted to show you one that I made earlier using those same measurements. And let me show you what it looks like when you put it on. Okay? So all you need is a belt to cinch up the waist. You can cinch up the waist in the back. And then there you have it. So that's what it will look like when it's finished. We start with a flat sheet. Do not get a fitted sheet. This is 200 thread count. And it's from Walmart. They make them, I think that's a Walmart brand. It's called Mainstays. Okay? And it comes with a cloth bag, and the reason they do that is so that you don't have to open it up to feel the texture of the fabric. And when you're done opening this up, it is a little hard to get out. But when you're done taking the bag off of the sheet, you can use this bag for tools or toys or something. This has a little sticky label. You can just peel that off. Okay. We don't need that. And here is the flat sheet. Comes with a piece of cardboard to keep it easy to put in the machine or put in the bag. Okay, you're going to look for the center. You're going to take the length of this, you're going to fold it in half, just like that. Once you find the center, you're going to cut it. You're going to cut the cloth in half. This is a very thin cloth. It cuts fairly easily. Alright, this is going to be the front, and this one will be the back. The back one I'm going to set over there for now. And as I said to you before, now you're going to have 3 edges that are hemmed. Okay, you got 3 edges hemmed. The one that I cut, of course, is not hemmed. You're going to fold this in half like this. This is the edge that I cut. Right here. As you can see, it's already fraying. Once you find the center, you're going to cut down from the top 5 inches. These scissors are about 4 inches, so a little more than the length of these scissors. So it doesn't have to be exact. You don't need to get measuring tape out. This costume is made for a theatrical production that we're doing. It's for our song that we're working on, a music video. It's a Christian music video. And this is a costume, or one of the costumes that we're going to use for a time period of the time of Jesus Christ and Mary, the mother of Jesus. So it doesn't have to be accurate, because back then they probably just made one size fits all type of outfits. So once you cut this down 5 inches, what we're going to do is we're going to sew a leading edge. We're going to go across 5 inches from here to here. We're going to sew this edge down 5 inches. We're going to sew this edge down 5 inches, and then we're going to go across 5 inches. Alright, as you can see, I've I've only got one piece of cloth here. I'm not sewing two things together. I'm just sewing a leading edge from here to here just to keep it from unraveling. And I only want to go about 5 inches on the top. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to measure out about 5 inches across from where we cut. I'm going to add a pin so we know where to stop. I'm going to stop right about here. So we don't want to go any further than where that pin is. And as you can see, it's already unraveling. And you can do fancy stitches if you want, but since we're trying to create more of a primitive look because of the time of Jesus, and everything was probably sewn by hand, of course, we don't need fancy stitching that goes back and forth or feather stitching. We just need, you know, straight up and down stitching. But if you want something fancy, change the dial and pick a fancy design if you like. Now, I have to say, up until a couple of days ago, I never knew how to use a sewing machine, so I want to thank my daughter for teaching me how to use a sewing machine. My daughter Zoe. Now what I'm doing is I'm sewing forward a couple of inches and then I'm going to back up. There's a reverse button. Most people that work with sewing machines know about that, but if you've never worked with a sewing machine, there's a reverse button, and if you push this down, it'll reverse the fabric the other direction, and that'll give you a stronger stitch, and it'll keep the fabric from tearing at that point or unraveling at that point. Okay, so you want to go 2 inches forward, 2 inches backwards. And also another thing that I've been learning is sometimes the thread comes unthreaded from the machine, or the bobbin is not properly placed, and so you'll stitch a whole long line, and you get to the end and you look at it and nothing's sewn. So periodically check your work and make sure that it's doing that. Make sure the sewing machine is doing its job. Okay, just in case you're wondering what sewing machine we're using, this is a Singer. It's called the Singer Simple 3337. Okay, and when you get to the end, you back it up again just to give it a little more strength. For the people that don't know anything about sewing machines, like myself, up until about 2 weeks ago, you want to raise the needle from the fabric, and you can use this wheel here. You can turn this wheel and that'll lift the needle. On the back side you see a little pedal or a handle that'll lift the foot, and then you pull out the fabric, and it's got 2 threads attached, and there's a little knife on the side, a little blade on the side that you can cut the fabric. When you pull your fabric away from the sewing machine, away from the needle, if you only see one thread, then that means that it's not working. So once you're done cutting the fabric, or cutting the thread I mean, you can pull the thread out a little bit and pull it back here. Okay? And then do that again. Start that over again. And so we got one side stitched. I know I'm getting detailed. And I'm going to sew the other side. Okay, we go forward 2 inches. Go backwards about 2 inches, go forward again. And what I've done is I've sewed down one side of the fabric, and I'm going to sew down this side of the fabric, and then when I get together, they're going to come together like a V shape, and then I'm going to sew across so that the fabric doesn't rip like that. Okay? Alright, they've come together, the threads have come together, the stitching has come together. I'm going to back it up a little bit. Okay, I'm going to make sure the needle's up, and it's up all the way. This machine, they say to only turn one direction, and that would be counterclockwise. Lift up the foot, pull out your work, cut the thread, pull the thread back, and now I'm going to make a little stitch in the center of the V just to give it some more strength. We're going to have actors come to our production. They're young people. They may be goofing around. They hate to have something rip in the middle of a show, in the middle of the video. Okay, we're ready to go. And all we're doing is a small stitch about 1 inch long, so back and forth, and it makes it really strong. Alright, so we're going to do about 5 inches on the top from left to right. I'll put a small pin there, just so I don't go too far down. So put a needle there or a pin with the head. I'm just gonna sew from here to here, from this edge to this edge, and that's it. That's all I need. I don't need to go any further. You can if you want. You can go further if you want, but you don't need to. And you're going to do the same on the other side as well. Okay? Go forward a couple inches, go backwards a couple inches. Make sure the needle is up before you pull it out, otherwise you'll break your needle. The foot is lifted up. Okay, and you're going to do that on the other side as well. And then you'll be done with that piece. So I have to measure about 5 inches. Again, about 5 inches. And that's your stopping point. Now for you guys who have never worked on a sewing machine, I have to say, they're not as difficult as you might think they are. There was a time when I was in art class and my teacher said to me that we're going to do painting and we're going to paint. And you can either use acrylics or you can use oil. My mom had a whole set of oil paints. And I told my art teacher, I said, well, my mom has oil paints, but I'd rather use acrylics. And she said, all right, well, here's the list. And it was like $300 for the paints. And I thought, you know what, my mom has oil paints. I'll just use those. I don't have the money to buy acrylics. And what I've learned about oil paints, the thing that I love about oil paints is it takes a long time for the paint to dry. So you can come back an hour later or 2 hours later or a day later and the paint is still, you know, wet, and you can smooth out some rough spots or blend together different colors. So the first time I was thinking about using oil paints, I thought to myself, well, the masters use oil paints. How would I think that I'm good enough to use oil paints? And once I started using oil paints, I fell in love with oil paints. And kind of the same thing about this machine, this sewing machine. I'm learning a little bit here and there, and there's videos on YouTube about how to work and how to use sewing machines and how to set the tension and things like that. Things that I never knew before 2 weeks ago. And it's not as intimidating as you might think. So don't feel nervous about using a sewing machine, okay? If you've never used a sewing machine. Alright, now I've done, well, I gotta do one more thing. I gotta back that up. I forgot to back up the edge. Alright, so now we're good to go. I hope that works. Something seems wrong here. We will double check. That looks correct. As you're pulling it out, you see 2 threads. The thread on the bottom is the bobbin thread, and the thread on the top is the spool up here. Double check the work, make sure it's sewn properly, everything looks good. We're going to work on the second piece. Alright, now I have the second piece here in my hands. I haven't done any work to it yet, but remember what I said, you're going to cut down about 2 inches. You don't need more than 2 inches. Remember, your finger's about 1 inch. And what we're going to do is we're going to do the same thing that we've done on the last pattern or the last project here, last piece. We're going to sew across on one piece. We're not going to use 2. We're not going to sew anything together. We're sewing across one edge, 5 inches. Okay, we're going to do that the same on both sides of the cut. So here's the cut. Alright, here's the cut. We're going to sew across 5 inches from left to right. We're going to sew across 5 inches from left to right here on this side of the cut, and then we're going to sew down 2 inches, 2 inches, and then on the bottom of the V, we're going to sew a little bit of threading right there. Alright, so what we've done is we've taken the full sheet, we've cut it in half. On the front, as you can see, we've cut a slit that's 5 inches long. Here on the back we cut 2 inches long. And as you can see where the dotted lines are, that's where we sewed. Okay, we didn't sew anything together, remember that. We just sewed an edge, just to keep this from unraveling. Now what we're going to do is we're going to pull these two together. We're going to pull these two together, and we're going to stitch right across this line. Now we're actually sewing two pieces together right now. Where this dark line is, that's where we're going to sew. Okay, we're going to sew these two pieces together. Okay, this is the front, because it has a long cut in the front. And this is the back. And all we're doing is we're sewing these two pieces together right now. So I'm going to sew the top from the left to the right. And in order to keep it in place, I'm going to use these pins. They're called hat pins, I believe. And you want to place them on the fabric like this. I don't know if you can see that. Okay. And that holds the fabric, and you don't want to have it so high that the sewing machine has to deal with that needle. Okay, so make it lower so that when you stitch it across, and look at here, we have two pieces of fabric that we're stitching together. So another thing you'll see is that we have the hem on the inside. This is the manufacturer's hem. It will be on the inside, but for now it's on the outside. And then what we're going to do is we're going to stitch this line straight across. Then when we flip it inside out, you won't be able to see the hem. Alright, now you may see I've got all my needles in place, or all my pins in place, and it goes all the way across. And now I'm going to stitch the top and the bottom together, or the front and the back together. We're actually stitching it back together the way it came. Always check your work. You'd hate to have to sew all the way across and get to the end and you find out you didn't do a thing. Now remember, when you get to the 5 inches that you sewed earlier, you want to stop. You don't want to sew across. Okay? Another thing is you don't want to push the fabric or pull the fabric. Otherwise you'll break your needle. What I'm doing is I'm just guiding the fabric. And I'm bunching it up here on the table so that the weight of it doesn't make the machine work harder. The weight pulling it down or pulling it down this way doesn't make the machine work harder. Okay, so I just wanted to remind you that you don't want to sew these two pieces together, because that's where your head is going to go through. Now, remember what I said. I sewed both of the hems on the outside. So you've got a hem on this side and you have a hem on this side. Once you turn it the other way around, or inside out, the hems will be on the inside. And let me show you what this looks like at this point. Okay, so that's why you don't want to sew these two together. We're going to cut the sleeves. We're going to sew it all together, and then we'll be finished. Alright, so this is what your fabric should look like about now. So these pins are going to represent where you stitched it. And as I said, you do not want to stitch these pieces together right here. And when you open it up, it should look a little bit like this. Okay. The hems will be on the outside. You want the hems on this side, not on the inside. So then what you do is you fold this like this. So this is the top of the fabric. This is the neck. This is the neck, what you see here. This is the other side. As you see, the hem is on the outside. We're able to see the hem. And what I've done is I've actually put some pins in place where I want to cut. I just cut straight across, and then I go straight up and down. And there's creases in the fabric. You could just follow the crease if you wanted to. And one more thing I wanted to share with you. It does have a label. Just that label. Make sure you cut out that label. You can cut through all 4 pieces of fabric. And as you can see, we have a tunic. I took the pins off so you can see what it would look like. Imagine these were sewed together. Now all we have to do is sew the bottom and sew the sides, and then we're done. And save the scraps. You can always use it for a belt or a head scarf, a head covering. Alright, let me show you what it looks like so far. That's one side and that's the other side. So as you can see, we've got a sleeve coming along. And once we sew the bottom of the sleeve and the sides, you will start to see a tunic. Alright, so I finished sewing the sides right here. The arms, underneath the arms I mean. I've sewn down the sides, and I've done both sides. So let me turn it inside out and show you what it looks like now that it's finished. So as you can see, we have the finished product here with the belt, and I hope you've enjoyed learning how to make a tunic for your passion plays.